Hi, for today, we will do a short discussion of the concept of spiral progression. To begin with, it's important that we familiarize ourselves with the idea of atomistic learning. Atomistic learning would mean learning in a segmented way. This means that we learn things but does not necessarily find how it is connected and how it is meaningful in the real life context, and therefore classifying it as something that is irrelevant. For example, learning that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell alone is something that can be categorized as atomistic learning, because ever since you have learned that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, you have to ask yourself what meaningful experiences have allowed you to use that knowledge that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. If the answer is that there's no meaningful experiences where we can relate that knowledge, therefore, we are experiencing atomistic learning. Now, a spiral progression design in the curriculum is somehow designed to counter the effect of atomistic learning. The idea is that we learn things from the simplest to the complex. We learn knowledge from the simplest to the complex, and thereby we also learn skills from the simplest to the complex. This increasing complexity is built from one knowledge to another. For example, case in point is this example of spiral progression in learning history. If we would notice, learning of history begins with the simplest knowledge of knowing the story about history. It would require declarative knowledge of who, when, what happened. But then, as the learner progresses from one topic to another, from one subject to another, from one year level to another, this knowledge is used in an increasing manner of complexity. In such way, for example, after learning the story of history, you now recount the explanation. After learning how to recount the explanation, you now have sequential to factorial, meaning you have now a skill of analyzing not only the sequence but the factors that contributed to the sequence of why it happened. And you also now, the learner can also now progress on explanation to argument of why the things in history happened. So, in essence, this kind of complexity would proceed to an exposition discussion and thereby have a gateway of connecting it to real life events and meaningful experiences that one can really encounter or experience in his or her lifetime. So, when we say that we are spiral progressing our teaching and our curriculum, it's not just a simple statement of arranging subjects. It's not just arranging which subject should be taken in first year, in second year, in third year. It's not just a statement of saying which topic should be taken on first grading, second grading, third grading, but a more serious discussion of spiral progression is a discussion of what knowledge and skill should be taken first, so that the next knowledge and skill to be taken would ensure learner success, as he or she have learned the prerequisite knowledge and skill on a prior stage. To ensure that spiral progression is carried out in our classroom, we have several taxonomy of learning outcomes or objectives that we can use. Apart from Bloom, we also have the Solo taxonomy, or the structure of observed learning outcome taxonomy. In there, we can classify the learning outcomes that we do from pre-structural to extended abstract. Learning outcomes can be classified from just a simple demonstration of knowledge to the most or more complex one. If you would notice, in the Solo taxonomy, learning outcomes are organized and arranged in increasing complexity in such way that at the end of the taxonomy, learners are able to analyze, create, and evaluate knowledge, and therefore demonstrate higher order thinking skills. We also have the depth of knowledge taxonomy, or the DOK, wherein learning outcomes are categorized from, just like the solo, from the simplest to the complex one. The complex one would allow learners to extend their way of thinking in such a way that they can synthesize their own knowledge and relate whatever they have learned from one field to another field and to real life context of experiences. These, of course, are all geared towards what we call holistic learning. Learning as a whole. When we find meanings of things in relation to one another, we are therefore learning holistically. We don't learn science just for the sake of learning science itself, but we learn science for the sake of understanding its role, its part to our lives and to the existence of the known universe. I hope this session have enlightened you on the basic principles of spiral progression. To know more, please read the prescribed reading on spiral progression and science teaching approach. Thank you and have a nice day.